Madhucharar Muhu Devam Deva Parityaja Bhuvi Cheru Avakshitaha.
So word for word, evam thus. Viprakrite being disturbed. Okay, when all the people, Deita Indra Anucharai, are the followers of Hiranyakashipu, the king of the Daityas. Again and again, Deva, the heavenly planets, Deva, the demigods, Parityaja, Ega, Bhuvi, on the planet Earth, change, wandered, to see the extent of the disturbances. Alakshita, unseen by the demons. Translation before by Divine Grace AC So translation, thus disturbed again and again by the unnatural occurrences caused by the followers of Hiranyakashipu, all the people had to cease the activities of Vedic culture, not receiving the results of yajna. Demigods also became disturbed. They left their residential quarters in the heavenly planets and, unobserved by the demons, began wandering on the planet Earth to see disasters. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the performance of yajna brings reciprocal good fortune to both the human beings and demigods. When the performances of yajna were stopped by the disturbances of the demons, the demigods were naturally bereft of the results of yajna and hampered in executing their respective duties. Therefore, they came down to the planet Earth to see how people had become disturbed and to consider what to do. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-shalakaya Chakshur-militam Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Vistam Swayam Yukadamayam Tati Sukantikam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasavi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare
Hare Krishna Mataji, is it possible to get the lapel mic closer to you?
Is that a little better?
I hope so.
Anything, just let me know. The problem, the little microphone that's usually attached, it's missing an action. So
I see.
yeah, sorry about that. I'll try my best. The microphone here is really loud, so I don't want to scream, but try to enunciate and speak. It's closer. Yeah. Is that easier? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. I see. I hope everyone can hear me live. This computer also has a mic, right? Yeah, okay. So maybe I'll just figure it out. Excuse the super up close profile, guys. Okay. So I offer my respects to my spiritual master and to all the dear devotees, especially my senior Vaishnava, for Bruce. And so here we are in the middle of this terrible scene of Hiranyakashipu at his height of disturbance. stopping all the yagna. Nagari, the USB mic, we're not able to find it. Sorry. So yeah, Hiranyakashipu, it's it's quite horrific because you can imagine. I mean, who would want to disturb such a peaceful life? Who would want to destroy trees that give you food? Who in there, right? Right? It doesn't make any sense. But this is the craziness of the demons. They're so envious Krishna and Krishna's creation that they just want to destroy the very root of happiness. So it's quite disturbing, the scene of the demons coming and not just destroying the food source, but also destroying houses, just completely making it so it's not possible to perform any type of sacrifice. Um, the devotees, the demigods, they're just completely unable to do their job. And of course, naturally, the human beings on the earth are not able to receive the results of their sacrifices. So everyone is disturbed. And it's amazing how the demigods, they left their place, but where did they go? They came to the earth and wandered to see what to do. And as we know, of course, the Lord has a plan. He's sending his great devotee as the very son of this monster. Like, what are the chances this great devotee? So Krishna sends this amazing soul to this highly demoniac family. Oh, thanks, Prabhu. We found the mighty wish fulfilling desire trees here. Okay. Oh, there's the paper. Okay. And does it put it here? There we go. So where were we? Yes. So Hiranyakashipu is going to receive a son, which for any person, whether it be material or spiritual, having a offspring is quite a joyful experience. And so Krishna's arrangement that he is bringing this light into this family. And sometimes, even when we look at our situations of the modern world, compared to this pastime, it doesn't seem quite as severe in a sense, because although we have a great amount of disturbance now, it's not that every single place is completely, destroyed and nobody's allowed to do any form of sacrifice or worship. At least today, there's still some, thankfully to the devotees and the Sankirtan Yagna, we're able to still have something. But at this moment in history, Hiranyakashipu is completely in charge of the universe and he's completely destroying everything. So, in one sense, it can look very hopeless, from the perspective of someone worshiping the Lord, that how is this happening? How is it that the Lord is allowing such extent that not even the demigods can stay in their home? I mean, it's pretty extreme. So, for the time being, it looks hopeless. And as we know, that thankfully it's not hopeless. Krishna has a plan. Um, and so, coming to the purport, Prabhupada is so expert. I was just thinking how every single purport he's sharing his realizations in a way that we can approach. So he's always quoting Bhagavad Gita or different Upanishads, but usually he references some point of Bhagavad Gita, which is amazing because then one can go back to Bhagavad Gita, and in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives his purports. And in those purports, we get more insight to the depth at which the acharyas are seeing the importance and the overall understanding of the well being of everybody and how to engage everybody according to their position in life. And the broad mindedness of Prabhupada and his purports, especially in Bhagavad Gita, is so encouraging. If someone just reads the Bhagavad Gita and they read the purports, no doubt they will make spiritual advancement. Prabhupada is very broad. So in this particular reference, he's quoting Bhagavad Gita from the third chapter. Third chapter is Krishna speaking all about yajna. He's also talking about the consciousness of one should be Krishna consciousness, no matter who they are. So someone can be inquiring into the truth, the higher, things philosophically. Someone can just be attached to wanting a better job or a better family. Someone can be completely detached and doesn't want anything to do with the world. Like this, Krishna is giving different examples of the types of yajna sacrifice in that third chapter that one can perform according to one's position so that they become purified. And the reason one becomes purified is because Krishna, Vishnu, is the sacrifice. He is the sacrifice, he is the source of the sacrifice, and he is you could say the one who receives it, the one who enjoys it. So he is that sacrifice. He is Prajapati. He is the father of all creation. So naturally, within the energy he's invested, and he gave this formula for human beings when he created. Of course, Vishnu is an expansion in the material sense of creation. He created the higher beings, demigods. He created human beings, and at the same time, he also created sacrifice, which was a means in which the human beings and the demigods can relate to each other so that they can both be happy and they can both be purified and ultimately come to Krishna consciousness. So it's a very powerful thing. Krishna doesn't just, through his expansions, he doesn't just create, but he also provides a means by which, even as a conditioned soul, we can enjoy our material desires. And Srimad Bhagavatam is so great that it kicks out these lower propensities as the topmost goal. And so here, Prabhupada is always trying to bring us back to the point of devotional service and love for Krishna. And not everyone can get there right away. So Prabhupada is so kind. He's emphasizing that the point of sacrifice, any sacrifice, is that it's meant to please Krishna. And even if someone doesn't know, if they perform and they do their duties and they perform a sacrifice, for example, classic example is the wife in the family, she sacrifices her selfish desires to serve the family, and in that way she becomes purified of her selfishness. There's the sacrifice of, Prabhupada gives a nice example of how there's two types of sacrifice. There's one is for material sense gratification, and the other sacrifice is meant for self-realization. Those two will still gradually lead one to Krishna consciousness. The latter, the one for material sense gratification, the idea is that gradually one will come to a purified enough state to actually be able to understand higher topics. So, for example, each case, so one is someone who's completely wants material sense gratification. The other one is who wants nothing to do with material life. They don't want to be attached to anything. So both of those are still not spiritual. And then there's the spiritual side, which is the Krishna conscious side, to do everything for the pleasure of Krishna. So those who are materialists who want sense gratification, they have to sacrifice. They have to control their senses to a certain degree. So Prabhupada gives the example in one of his purports how the materialists are given the demigods to worship. So then they can satisfy their desires. Those that want to eat meat, they're given the opportunity to worship Mother Kali. Those that are wanting to attain some impersonal liberation, like completely, don't want anything to do with material existence, they're given an opportunity to merge into the effulgence, the Brahmajyoti. And then the devotees, or those that are aspiring, can sacrifice in Krishna consciousness according to their position, their guna, their karma, their qualities, and their work, and that way become purified in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada also makes a point that no matter who we are, we still depend on the Lord. So even for somebody who wants to eat meat, still they need to depend on the rain and the light and so many things to grow the food, which then feeds the animals that they want to eat. So those that directly eat grains and vegetables and all these things, they obviously have a more clear connection that, especially being on a farm, you can see you need the rain, you need the right amount of rain at the right time, like that. So it's all depending on the Lord's mercy. And the other aspect of sacrifice that I was reading about in that third chapter is this preliminary understanding that Krishna says that the living entity under the influence of the false ego thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are actually carried out by the modes of material nature. So this is very important too, because when we come to see that everyone is acting under the modes, and because of that, we shouldn't, as a learned person or someone who has more knowledge, we shouldn't put down others according to their position, but rather we should encourage others to do some sacrifice. And in that way, they'll gradually become purified. And then from there, they can actually understand the importance of certain rules and regulations, which is then like a beginning platform to enter into bhakti or devotional service. It's following some rules and regulations. And I was thinking, so many times it can be a bit hard for persons who aren't chanting Hare Krishna, which is the main Yuga Dharma recommended in Kali Yuga. The main sacrifice recommended in Kali Yuga is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And so for those that are performing this yagna, not performing the sacrifice of chanting, it's very difficult to follow rules and regulations because the false ego wants to think, I'm free, I can do whatever I like. Why do I need to follow all these rules? If God is so loving and so great, considering they believe in God, then why should I follow strictly these things? I mean, God loves me anyways. So why? Or someone who doesn't think in God, they can be like, I can do whatever I want because ultimately either everything is God or it's all, just some material creation by chance, or, so many reasons a person can give as to why they don't need to follow any rules. But Krishna himself is the rules and regulations. So not only is it just some words, some process, but that is the Lord Himself, which is why when one comes in touch with it, it has some reaction, it acts. The Lord is interacting in that way with living entities. And so Prabhupada said we have many weapons in our movement, and one is prasada. Because even if someone doesn't want to follow any rules, doesn't want to listen to any philosophy, if they hear the holy name or they take some prasada, they come in touch with the Lord. And this is also the very important aspect of Krishna prasada, growing the food as clean as possible, making it, offering it with love and devotion. In this way, it becomes sanctified or spiritualized. So Prabhupada describes that this effulgence that comes from Krishna, it's the Brahma Jyoti, it's the Jyoti of Krishna. And it's this Brahma Jyoti that's the creation. It's all the creation that's expanding from him. And when it's covered by illusion, then it's called Maya. So when again that Brahma Jyoti is again in contact with that spiritualized aspect of love and devotion or consciousness, then it takes on the spiritual quality again. So, in a sense, we're always in association with Krishna, whether we realize it or not. For the first levels, we're in association through Brahma Jyoti. Second level, we're in association through Paramatma. And the topmost realization of association is Krishna, the two-handed, two-armed form with the peacock feather playing the flute. And this way, we actually have relationship with Krishna. You can have 5 different types of relationship with Krishna. And so initially there's neutrality, and then there's servitorship, there's friendship, there's parental, and then there's conjugal. And so here in this world, we have so many relationships, and even the demons want to have relationships. So there's a natural part of the soul that wants to relate. And simply by performing this chanting of Hare Krishna, whether we believe in Krishna or not, it has its effect. And so Prabhupada is urging everybody to please take to the chanting of Hare Krishna, because this will bring about prosperity. It will give the necessary food that we need. The minimum of what we need to survive will be there just by chanting Hare Krishna. What to speak of all the other esoteric, amazing things. So let me see the time here. Time are we at? 7:30. Okay. There are a few other things that can be said, but I was going to go kind of flip over into the 9th chapter Bhagavad Gita, which is that famous book, Dharam Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. But before we go into that, I just want to stop to hear any thoughts or reflections from either of you or anyone online. So,
I have some point to mention, but let's keep it.
okay. So Surapal Prabhu has a point here he'd like to make. Yes, Prabhu? No, everyone's waiting.
You mentioned about this.
You want to speak in this so they can hear you? Okay, so
About this rules and regulations that not everyone is very eager to follow. And
say about rules and regulations, is eager to follow.
anyway, no this.
Okay,
So sometimes people, like you beautifully narrated, sometimes people wonder why I should follow these rules and regulations. I want to be free. Whatever come to my mind or saliva bring on my tongue, I would like to just express myself. So, of course, we know that every society, every class of society, every group, social group, they have certain rules and regulations of their culture that they follow. When we go to people who cultivate some type of sport, they have some sort of rules and regulations of their culture. When we go to army or police department, they have certain rules and regulations to follow. They culture. When we go to, let's say, uh, the royal family in England, let's say, they have certain rules and regulations to follow. This is their culture when they feel comfortable. When we go to people addicted to intoxication, alcohol or drugs, so then they have also certain rules and regulations to follow. This is their culture when they feel very comfortable. When we go to a prison house, they have certain rules and regulations to follow. This is their culture, and they feel good. So what happened when, let's say, some people from prison house go to the royal family in England? Both they will feel very disturbed. Why? Because this is huge difference between rules and regulations that they follow. There is huge difference between culture. So who is right? Those who are prisoners and because they were overdosed with alcohol and drugs and all these things and created their own language and this and that, or those who are in a royal position and have very sophisticated rules and regulations of their culture. Who is right? Well, if we will take axiom, absolute axiom, which is the supreme personality of Godhead, so even this title, the supreme personalities, the supreme person, naturally, it's even higher than royal position on this earth planet. So this means that he has the supreme rules and regulations of the supreme culture that he created. So if we aspiring to go to him, to have his association, naturally we need to adjust our lower culture that, of course, rules and regulations are uh, uh, um, the ingredients of the culture. We need to eliminate our lower rules and regulations of our lower culture to adjust ourselves to the highest culture that Krishna represents. Otherwise, we are not good aspirants. We have no clue what means to have association with the Supreme Lord. But if we aspiring, if we are practicing bhakti, so then we should be aware that there are higher rules and regulations of the higher culture, and we need to adjust ourselves. So this is like another aspect of explanation why we should follow rules and regulations.
When we have even Krishna himself, he sent himself because I myself perform strategies and he comes. In that way, he can be an example for others. Sorry. So yeah, Krishna himself, he sets the example so that others will benefit, as he says that whatever actions a great man performs, common men follow. So in that way, we see Krishna's example, and he also comes about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to show the example of what it means to be a devotee. And then, of course, gave us the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And then I was also thinking how this not wanting to follow the rules and regulations also is like, like that. Like everyone thinks, if I'm doing something my way, that's natural, but then they're doing all these things that's unnatural. So, yeah, it's very how do you say, relative. And in the absolute sense, if we see the results of these relativity, then we can compare it with the results of, those rules and regulations that Krishna is prescribing, and see the results of both and which one is better. And, as we're given the information that has Krishna's results is better because he is the supreme enjoyer and he knows how to enjoy it. He knows how we will enjoy best. So anybody else have any comment or question? Yes. We have Krishna Maya Mataji. She just wants to add something.
Yeah, thank you for such a wonderful explanation on this topic. And I've been thinking because usually when we are exposed to rules and regulations, we feel that we get this feeling that they are restricting us, that they actually take away our freedom. Like even we may have this, and we may feel like that also even in Krishna consciousness. That like in the morning when the alarm clocks goes off, I mean, I'm speaking for myself. It's a struggle to get up. It's not that this is like, oh yeah, I'm so excited. I'm excited, but still it's a struggle because especially here on the farm, the Gita Nagari, there is so much service and it's often physical service and even mental services exhaust the body even more than physical. So they may be need for more rest and the body may be screaming, no, no. So those rules may feel like they are really restricting us. They are taking away our freedom. And one time, some time ago, my business coach, she mentioned something that at that time, I was like, wow. But she said that the regulation actually gives us freedom. And I have been contemplating this that time when she said this, and I was thinking, how is that? And then when I analyze my day, like let's say when we have day off, right, either from regular work or even here at the farm, the bodies they have day off. Then there's tendency like to kind of do what we want and what we feel like. So like maybe sleep in, like basically not follow anything, just however body feels at the moment. And then but the end, there's often this realization that the whole day passed by, but there was really nothing accomplished. So this so-called freedom of not following anything actually is the cause of the time really slipping in and wasting a lot of energy. Because for me personally, I have this realization that when I allow myself like just do like this, then at the end of the day, I feel very frustrated, not accomplished, and also tired. Whereas when we stick to the rules and regulations and feel that they are restricting us, they are tough to follow, but the result ultimately is that we are not only advancing, but we are more healthy and more happy too. So I just wanted to share this perspective as well, because often there's this big thing that, oh no, like why we have to do this? We want this freedom.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking that same example too, about rising early, and that's a big one. That's been the biggest challenge for me. I come from a lot of passion and ignorance, so when I first joined in the ashram, my mother couldn't believe it. I was always the one to wake up like super late and screaming when she had to wake me up, and she sometimes had to drag me into the shower. So when I told her, my schedule, she just was shocked, like, oh my God. So seeing it year after year after year, even though she has no um, interest in direct Krishna consciousness, she sees that there's some effect it's having. It's changed me in a positive way. She can see my diet is clean. one time it was during the Lent. You know, they fast, at least the Roman Catholics, they try to do no fish. The Orthodox Christians, they do no animal products whatsoever. So, you know, she came, visited for Lent one year, and then she said, oh, I said, so why are you fasting, Mom? She said, oh, you know, the Lord wants us to fast, so that way we give up some of these things that we're addicted to that are not so good for us, and, you know, it's not so sinful. And I said, okay. And then I said, what? And then she looked at me and she said, but you don't have to do any of that because you already, like, you don't eat that stuff. So then she caught herself, like, realizing that the life that I'm living is already following principles. It's not that I have to wait for some time of the year. So like that, you know, everyone has their levels. But then I was thinking of myself, like it really comes down to consciousness, and one really has to be introspective what their motives are. Because, like, for example, the aspect of sacrifice, it's inconvenient. One has to tolerate things, um, and it's things where sometimes we really don't want to do, or it just like pinches us in such a way. So I was thinking myself, like, there's a big difference between me being disturbed and sacrificing for my own sense gratification versus being disturbed and sacrificing for Krishna's pleasure and Krishna's service. It's a huge difference. Externally, the emotion might seem very similar, but when I look at the result, it's very different. So, for example, like, I'm so hungry, right? And like, have all these services I have to do and finish, and you know, I have to go to the altar, I don't want to eat or use the toilet, or you know, I want to be clean, and it's all these inconveniences, but then I do it and I do the service, and there's such a satisfaction in the heart when I'm serving Krishna, and I come to that point of actually making the offering. It's a very pleasing feeling. And even sometimes if I'm not fully conscious, even afterwards, I'm feeling quite peaceful and satisfied. Whereas, for example, like if I go with family or some, you know, somebody, and they want to go, say, to a theme park or to a movie or something, which I rarely do, but when I'm with family, sometimes they want to, you know, this is their way of enjoying. So I go with them. And you can see so much sacrifice, so much anxiety to get there, to get the car, to get there on time, to have this and that. And it's just so much inconvenience. And then at the end of the day, completely tired. And it's like, there's no real satisfaction. It's, you know, it's just kind of like, okay, we did it, we got it over with. What's the next thing? Like, it's a little dry. And then even sometimes, a lot of times, people get in fights, you know, fighting, trying to take a road trip, like end up separating or don't want to see the person ever again. They're just like, I had enough of you, you know? So, yeah, I mean, growing up, I remember reading like every Christmas or something, the school would have us write like a little booklet of like what we want for the holidays, like what is our inspiration, you know. Most people would say, I like, at least children, they would say like, I want this toy or I want this thing. And I was in third grade, and I remember going back to read like, oh, what was I thinking and wanting? And then in the description I wrote, all I want for Christmas is for my family to stop fighting. And I was like, oh my gosh. Because every holiday, it was always some drama. And my family, they come from a, you know, they have some religious inclination, but you know, it's mixed with the modes of ignorance, you know, eating meat, drinking, and even some like doing worse, intoxication. So when they all come together and you get a mix of those modes, naturally things end up very bad and just so terrible. You know, people screaming and fighting and all kinds of drama. So, you know, it's not nice. People think, yeah, we'll get together, we'll eat some meat, we'll drink some wine and be merry. But no, it always ends up in some craziness. And then, the nature of being an illusion is that you forget. And because there's some initial taste of enjoyment, so-called enjoyment, even though it ends in drama and craziness, then one thinks, I'll do it again. I just for that little buzz, that little, taste, that little relaxation, that little relief from the pressures of my life. I just do a little, what else is there to do? So thankfully, when someone starts chanting or taking prasadam or coming in some association, immediately there's that connection that, wow, there's something more. And I'm attracted to this for some reason. I don't know. And even if one tries to go back to their old habits, it's not the same. It's never the same. It's like Maharaj, the Dharmita Maharaj says like the Acharya say, the haunted by the rasa. So, yeah, and Hiranyakashipu, of course, he had his son, Prahlad Maharaj, and his haunting was Krishna Vishnu. That was his haunting. So even in that, he got purified. So he was always thinking of Vishnu. So I'll have about 7 minutes. If anybody else would like to comment or question or correction, please do.
Wonderful description, very illustrative, colorful description. Difference between our own selfish sacrifice, sacrifice for Krishna. Very beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for it's unforgettable when you see it. Oh gosh. Okay. Here we have some nice devotees here. All right.
This is medicine.
Here we have Dasya Prem Prabhu.
You mentioned this the excuse for not like chanting. They said, "Oh, Krishna will be healed, even if I do all these rosy directions." I'm wondering, is there some, is there like some truth in that, some value in that? Like I have to have an excuse as a needs and like fears, but I'm wondering if they're, I'm willing to away from that. That's like very good. Is there some balance that, like Krishna does love you with whatever, in whatever situation, like what, no matter what we're doing to do.
Yeah, for someone who doesn't have knowledge, indirectly they can feel that way. And it's according to their level. But someone who has knowledge and who's simply been covered by Maya due to their lack of, practicing properly, it's an excuse and an abuse of what Krishna has given. If one is genuinely grateful for what they've been given and how much grace Krishna has given, naturally out of desire to want to serve and reciprocate, not just with Krishna, but the personalities who gave that information. That desire to want to reciprocate, one wants to follow what they're being requested to do. So that's the importance of the spiritual master or having a spiritual guide, is that they will help us and guide us according to our position. And if they tell us, you chant Hare Krishna, which Prabhupada is telling us, which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling us, chant Hare Krishna. And because they're opening our eyes to some extent to even see that far, that we should reciprocate and follow. Otherwise, it's just being ungrateful. Yeah. So, this proof.
To this very
Yes,
beautiful,
Prabhu is telling.
very philosophical and technical, very clear, illustrated description or explanation.
I just really quickly, because they may not heard what Dasya Prabhu was saying. So basically, his question was that, at the point that Kumari got made, that like we may say, oh, it doesn't matter what I do, Krishna still loves me. So in just naturally, he was asking if this still holds true, regardless like what somebody is capable of doing or not. Does this still hold true that Krishna loves us anyway?
Yes, my additional point is because Srila Prabhupada used to bring the example with mother and child. So since the point that Dasya Prabhu is referring to is if Krishna loves us anyway, if we are not following, we are not good, obedient children. So like you are the mother. So let's say you have 10 children, okay? Yourself in the shoes of Hari Chakra Prabhu, let's say, okay? He has a lot of children and a lot of them, they have, like you used to say, on their own level. We see individuality in their action and behavior. So when you say, let's that you have this 10 children, do you love all of them regardless what they do and how they do? Yeah, because you are a mother, you love them. Krishna loves even demons. He's not partial. He loves them because why? Because this is his children. However, would you like to pay more attention to, more saintly person like Danya, and all others are a little bit, rebellious, a little bit crazy, independent, whatever. So you will love all of them. However, there is some gradation. You are not you are not like impersonal ignorant who don't care and don't see any difference. So naturally, since you are person and cultural and eloquent person, you are able to see differences between them, and actually you reciprocate accordingly. Those who are obedient and follow rules and regulation, they follow what you requested, and they are very polite and gentle and sweet and etc. So naturally you pay more attention and you're willing to give for ice cream and that. But others, they yelled, they screamed and hey, then you can say, please be a little bit quiet and say thank you. Can you do this? No. All right. So then only one, like bite of ice cream or something like this. So we see that in the in the world, especially amongst human beings who are social creatures, so we distinguish between different people, different individuals who have tendency like more friendly tendencies. So naturally we have this tendency to reciprocate accordingly, either there's children or not, because we are persons. And yeah, Krishna loves all of us, but naturally he loves more those who are lenient towards his expectations and his desires, so there is sweeter reciprocation.
That he thought the Lord Vishnu was somehow being not equal, that he was favoring the demigods over the demons, but he was just reciprocating according to their desires and their activities.
And Krishna is straightforward.
And he's Vishnu.
He's mentioned, those who surrender to me, I reward them.
Yeah.
Accordingly.
Mhm.
It's not that, okay, I love all of you and I'm reciprocating equally. No.
Yeah.
Accordingly.
Yeah. And they were ungrateful because they didn't see how Krishna even allowed them to do such crazy things. But thankfully, Krishna also protects his devotees. So, okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada.